Hello, everyone. It's Laura K. Ellis. Today, I'm really feel deeply moved to talk about childhood traumas, and ways to heal as adults from the impact. It's been pretty heavy on my mind, even with my own experiences. So many people don't understand that they have become the products of their past. And it's not their fault, it's by default. I can tell you, and I'll begin today's session, if you will, with my own experience, or just briefly in my own experience. And I feel very fortunate because I had two parents, biological parents. One was epic, and the other was like an apparition. And so many of my clients don't have that. They have two negatives or two absent parents, whether it's physical or emotional, abandonment, whatever it may be. So I'm very grateful that I had the positive influence, excuse me, from my father the first 10 years of my life, which the first 10 years of your life are critical. They're critical because your precious subconscious mind remains open to all suggestions, words spoken, unspoken, open to the environment. And, excuse me, and so we become the products of those programs that have been instilled in us. And up until the age of 10, we didn't have what's the word I'm looking for? We didn't have the ability to say yes or no to information, or to obviously not to get up and walk out because we were children. But what has happened is those influences, those programs, remain deeply embedded in the subconscious. And time again, even with tribal members that I refer to my family as, Dr. Wayne Dyer got me started on that because that's the way he referred to his family, if they were that, and I feel the same way. So that being said, the late great Dr. Wayne Dyer, I should say, who I had the opportunity to meet back in 2002, 2003 at a I Can Do It conference in Orlando, Florida. But anyway, that being said, you know, these individuals, tribal members, and if they weren't your tribal members, just individuals in general, many, if not all of my clients, have been affected. We all are at the effect, actually, but some better than others, right? So if you take, for example, I'll just throw it out there, the Hilton family. I'm not saying their lives are hunky-dory, but what I am saying is, they're programmed for wealth. So Paris Hilton is out and about and doesn't have a worry in the world financially. I don't know about her emotional state or anything like that, but it's quite obvious. And we could say that about quite a few people, right? So maybe that's the brighter side, but then maybe not. There might have been some very dark things going on behind the scenes in childhood that I don't know, nor do I want to know. But what I will say, again, is I'm trying to give you some examples of how we've been programmed. So whether we're programmed for wealth, or we've been traumatized, abused as little ones before the age of 10, Those deep emotional scars and wounds are absolutely programmed in our subconscious. So what happens? Let's say, for example, another example, um, you had parents that were into drugs. They were drug addicts or alcoholics, or it really doesn't matter to the unconscious mind. Addiction is addiction. It's a habit of mind, okay, passed on for 2 to 3 generations perhaps. But nonetheless, let's just say, for example, you were a product of two parents or one or the other that was had a massive addiction issue. 90% of the time, you will grow up at the effect of that same addictive personality, of that addictive energy, and you will become that as well. The potential for you to become that is 90%, I would say. Now, then I have people that say to me, well, why do families that have 2 or 3 children, some are afflicted by what they've experienced in childhood and some are not? That all goes back again to 2 to 3 generations of, how strong the effect was when they came about. So if they were a middle child and the older child became a product of, a big product, I should say, of the addiction, the middle child may not have been, okay? Because it's the gene pool's not as strong then. But it's really not the genes. We're talking about mind. We're talking about energy. We're talking about the subconscious mind, which co-created us in the womb, by the way. So that's another big factor as to why or why not. Okay. That being said, I've had clients in the last 15 years that have children. And when I say children, right now I'm referring to children under 10. And they're staying in situations with abusive spouses or with addictive personalities or anything that doesn't create a happy, stable home. And some worse than others, of course, like everything else. But what happens is they're not aware that they're remaining to stay because of their programming in these relationships that are not healthy. These children that they've had or that are exposed to this, we'll just say, unsettling environment on a day-to-day basis are being programmed just as they were, just as we all are, from one extent to the other, and they too will become the products in some way, shape, or form, if not the exact same monkey see, monkey do, but not by choice. This is by default, because the unconscious mind is taking that in as this is the way it's supposed to be, to put it in easier terms, okay? Monkey see, monkey do, whatever those cliches were. Even though, as you get older, you say, well, or these children get older and they say, I don't want to be like my mother, or I don't want to be like my father, or I don't want to be like my uncle who raised me. Yes, consciously you can say that, but you've still been programmed. Okay? So there's still some residual, if not all, effects from those programs, because they're running in the background, friends. That programs, plural, perhaps, running in the background in the subconscious mind. And I would have to say most of the people in this world today don't know that, don't understand that, and certainly haven't been taught that. Okay? So what do we do about that? It's very sad, because these children that I know are in these situations, and you see it on the news, you see it everywhere, not just my client base, of course not, are suffering. And if they're not suffering right now, or they will be, they will be in some shape, form, or fashion because of the instability, perhaps the abuse, witnessing mom getting slapped around, whatever it is. They become the products of that and spend lifetime getting over it. Okay, if they don't address the subconscious mind properly. That would mean having it addressed by a multi-certified, highly experienced facilitator, hypnotherapist. Okay? I've worked with, as I said earlier, many of the adults, some of the children, but very, very briefly, because here's the thing. If the parents are blaming the children for their behavior, the parents need to look in the mirror. Because and I'm not saying that a puppy dog is the equivalent to a 3-year-old, even though they have the mind of a 3-year-old human forever. They are a reflection of your energy, or the adult's energy, the parent's energy, whoever the primary caretakers are. And so they become the products of that. And yes, again, back 2 to 3 generations, possibly. Okay? So even if it's a physical disorder, it still applies. Now, the parents may not have displayed any, let's just use ADHD. Okay, most likely they have. But if they hadn't, again, we need to look at how this child's being raised, what this child's eating, and going back 2 to 3 generations. I know that from my own experience with my son. In 2nd grade, I'm not patting myself on the back, but I'm telling you that I was and am a good mother. And I know that, beyond the shadow of any doubt, thankfully. But my son, in 2nd grade, the school called me and told me they wanted to put my son on medication. The school nurse, whoever it was, diagnosing him with ADHD. Well, I didn't buy into that. I showed up at the school one day unannounced, and I went to his little classroom, 2nd grade, and I walked in the classroom, and there was not one adult in the room. Not one. Not the teacher, assistant, no one. And these children were like little monkeys just swinging off the light fixtures. And, that's my analogy anyway. And I was so irate. I went down to the principal's office, and as I was looking for it, I see this long line of children in the hallway. When I got to the principal's office, I asked the receptionist, or whoever it was, what are these children, this long line of children, doing in the hallway? And her response was, well, they're here for their medication. Really? Okay, so all the parents apparently agreed that it was okay to medicate their children, maybe because it was easier. That's not an excuse, but I can't fathom any other reason they would come up with that. And honestly, it had to be at least 50 to 100 children in the hallway lined up. So I had made the comment, I got to the principal's office, and I'm just blown away in all honesty of what I was witnessing. And this was in a southern state. I grew up and went to school in New York and New Jersey. Different mindset there. They pay their teachers more there as well. But anyway, so I ended up, long story short, taking my son out of that classroom, refusing to let him return, and taking on the school system who wanted to medicate my son. In the meantime, I did a lot of research, and I discovered that his father, my son's father, suffers from a form of dyslexia. Well, who would have known that We ran a multi-million-dollar company together. This is how it works, friends. Disorder to the unconscious mind, it doesn't make a difference. It doesn't know the difference between one addiction and another. It just takes in that energy of dysfunction, addiction, okay? Or disorder, or whatever it may be. So in this case, it was a disorder that my then husband went undiagnosed forever. And it came about in our son with ADHD. ADHD has a lot to do with also not just the generational aspect, as an example, what I'm giving you right now, but also food diet has a lot to do with it. And so I never medicated my son and refused to do that. I see children today that are products of that. Most of them look like skeletons. Of course, I'm not a big believer in any type of pharmaceutical drugs, unless, of course, it's an ER situation. And today, I'm proud to say, he's 35 years old, and he's built like Arnold Schwarzenegger, I call it. And he's a great human being. He doesn't have any issues. So did I address it with the unconscious mind with him? No, I didn't know what I know today. And it would have been a lot easier, of course. But what I want to say to you is, children that have had trauma or are in existing situations, in traumatic situations with the parents or primary caretakers, whoever they may be in charge, need to really pay attention, because they're either playing out what has been programmed to them. I'm speaking about the parents now, and you can believe that your children will be at the effect of that, because you or they are at the effect of that, and or, okay, 2 to 3 generations back, grandmas, great-grandmas, great-grandpas. You need to look into that. It's sad that these children are going to be a product of the environments they're in if these environments are unhealthy. They leave deep emotional wounds, perhaps physical. They could end up, I would guarantee you that most of the individuals, if not all of them, on Skid Row are products of dysfunctional backgrounds. And you can look at I'm going to plug his YouTube channel, and it's The Soft White Underbelly. And this gentleman, Mark, all he does is film these individuals that are broken in these 20, 30-minute clips, and they tell their story. He's done thousands of them, and he does a fabulous job. And so you might want to look him up and get the idea of what I'm saying. First thing he says to them is, what was your childhood like? Because he knows, thankfully he knows, that this is how these individuals became dysfunctional and not healthy and not upstanding citizens for the most part. And that's just going to reinforce everything that I've said today if you decide to look it up. Again, it's Soft White Underbelly. The gentleman's name is Mark, that does these recordings. He, from what I understand, was a photographer at one time, a successful one. And so you can trust that the films that he puts out, the videos, are optimal. Okay? Parents, primary caretakers, look at your backgrounds before you blame your children. Okay? And know that the only way that I have discovered in all of my years and decades of doing this work is reaching the subconscious mind, because that's where these programs are. Okay? And if I can help you at all or answer any questions, I'm happy to do that. Leave me some comments below, like and subscribe if you will, and I will see you on the next one. Take care for now.